First things first, I like what they're doing, but we also got to address the elephant in the room. That panel of assholes up there at the front, don't like any of them. So we'll see where this goes. Worst cover-up in human history. House Republican launches campaign to hold CCP accountable over the pandemic. Good. Glad somebody's taking initiative, and at least they can form this committee to figure out what the fuck to go and investigate. Might as well put somebody's tax dollars to work. House Republicans have vowed to take a series of actions to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for the cover-up of COVID-19 outbreak that spurned the global pandemic and get to the bottom of how the disease potentially started spreading among humans. Right? Because there was originally no human-to-human transmission, according to the information that we got straight from China, okay? And you should have believed them because the WHO bought it and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually it was like, no, actually, why is it transferring from person to person? Oh, because it can, and then we'll just update our guidelines. And if you question those, you're tossed off of the internet forever. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy on June 23rd laid out an eight-pronged plan targeting the communist regime and other bodies to ensure Americans get the accountability and transparency they deserve. We cannot allow the wrongdoing of China to go unnoticed, and more importantly, to not allow the accountability to happen. That's some fun phrasing, McCarthy said at a press conference in Washington. The first item on the agenda, McCarthy said, was to introduce legislation compelling the government to declassify intelligence relating to the origins of the CCP virus, the pathogen that causes, yes, COVID. Obviously, at this point, we know all about it. As much as we're allowed to know about it, if you catch my drift. President Joe Biden on May 26th ordered the intelligence community to produce a report in 90 days on the origins of the virus, which was first reported in the Chinese city of Wuhan. That was after he got rid of the commission that was already in place that was put there by Secretary of State at the time, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. But no, this report was going to somehow be better. He said intelligence agencies are looking at rival theories, including the possibility of a laboratory accident in China. Remember, guys, 3 doctors fell ill with very similar symptoms in November of 2019 that worked in that lab. Could be possible. Could just be the flu. Who knows? McCarthy said House Republican caucus was launching this effort due to reluctance by Democrat members in Congress and the White House to take action to hold the regime to account over its actions relating to the pandemic. The Biden administration won't take immediate action in China to pressure the communist regime to allow an independent probe into whether COVID-19 originated in the lab, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Sunday. While the theory that the virus was the result of a leak from Wuhan Institute of Virology was labeled as a conspiracy theory last year, most of us kind of had the inside track and it looked a little bit fucking dodgy. But as soon as Democrats and the mainstream media pick up on it, then all of a sudden, oh boy, why didn't more people tell us about this? The GOP House leader also called for a ban of U.S. funding any gain-of-function research in China and to end the National Institute of Health funding for foreign adversaries such as China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty decent list to start with. NIH Director Francis Collins, I was going to call him Francois, acknowledged in a statement last month that the NIH and the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases have for many years supported grants to learn more about viruses lurking in bats and other mammals that have the potential to spill over to humans and cause widespread disease, but denied that either institution have ever approved any grant that would have supported gain-of-function research. Oh, okay, yeah, you're just discovering and you're doing some experiments and research into figuring out gain-of-function. You just don't want to call it gain-of-function for the purposes of it receiving grants. I understand. It's a distinction without a difference, my friend. So that's good. I'm glad some people are fucking stepping up to this, trying to figure out, get to the bottom of this, use the scientific method to get to the bottom of it. I hate how that word, or even the connotation of using science, has somehow been adopted by a bunch of nut jobs who just want to post TikTok videos about, I'm finally getting my vaccine today! If we could just return to the place where, the science and the scientific method is being used by people who are rational and just want to figure out what the fuck actually went on and then do further research into it. But hey, maybe I'm the one who's living in a fantasy world. This could all just be my delusion. Or maybe more information is getting leaked out. I think that could be the word of the day. Sure, why not? If there was a lab with certain weather stripping problems that allowed certain things to leak out of it, then why don't we have more data coming out from said miracle drugs, of course? How about the CDC admitting that COVID-19 mRNA vaccines likely linked to rare health condition in kids? Under 30 kids, okay? And again, it's a small amount of people who are actually experiencing these side effects. But that doesn't take away from the 300 plus people who've experienced these, or maybe even the many more that are out there where it has currently gone unreported. This is pretty freaky. And we've known about this for a while, but this is the first acknowledgement that at least I can see. Like, there was the big meeting out there to discuss this issue. The heads of the different big pharma corporations and the different medical experts, but now they're letting the plebs in on some of the information that was out there. Researchers have found a link between rare cases of heart inflammation in children and COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna. Johnson & Johnson has their own hookups, but I don't have any evidence of that pulled up, so I can't comment on it. Thanks for nothing, cocksuckers. A group of doctors advising the Center for Disease Control and Prevention said Wednesday the COVID-19 vaccine safety technical vast work group said the data available to date suggests likely associations of a myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle. Yes, with the mRNA-based shot in younger Americans. It does appear that mRNA vaccines may be a new trigger for myocarditis, yet it does have some different characteristics, said Dr. Matthew Oster during a panel for the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices meeting on Wednesday. The heart issues are very rare. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. But if you're wanting everybody to take racism as such a public health crisis seriously when there's how many unjustifiable unarmed police shootings every year? And you contrast that with the amount of police interactions, and you want us to take action on that shit, but talking about this stuff is verboten. The disconnect is pretty strong. The CDC received around 323 reports that met its definition of a myocarditis, met their definition of it. Okay, no more questions. And pericarditis in vaccinated people under 30 as of June 11th, the outlet reported. The CDC reported. This is out of some 27 million shots that have been administered to people under the age of 30 in the United States. Yeah, and to be fair, you run the numbers, and that is a number so small it would almost be a justification if it was a fatality rate to shut down the entire world. Officials said at least 79% of the patients recovered from their symptoms. That still leaves 21%. That's not a small amount of people, which include chest pain, shortness of breath, and difficulty sleeping. It could also just be their diet too, who knows. We're observing this in a younger age group, mainly in people in the teens and early 20s, and observing it more in males compared to females. Oh, that's why we're not allowed to talk about this, or even if it is getting spoken about, who cares, because men most affected, therefore it's not an issue and everybody should just move along. But here's something that I hope the Republicans, with their efforts to figure out what happened in the communist lab over in Wuhan, China deleted COVID-19 data and possible cover-up. Interesting. China deleted early COVID-19 data in a possible effort to cover up its origins, hindering the World Health Organization's probe into whether the virus leaked from a lab in Wuhan, according to a scientific paper published Wednesday. Interesting. I trust that guy. He looks like a scientist, okay? More than a dozen coronavirus tests sequenced taken during the pandemic's early months were removed from the international database used to track the virus's evolution, according to reports authored by Jesse Bloom, a virologist and evolutionary biologist. Oh, he's clearly a racist now. Evolutionary biology? Come on now. The Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle. Bloom concludes that China likely deleted the data from the National Institute of Health's Sequence Read archive in order to obscure their existence. Interesting. Bloom didn't kill himself. The fact that such an informative data set was deleted has implications beyond those gleaned directly from the recovered sequences. Samples from early outpatients in Wuhan are a goldmine of anyone seeking to understand the spread of the virus. Bloom writes in his paper titled "Recovery of Deleted Deep Sequencing Data Sheds More Light on the Early Wuhan SARS-CoV-2 epidemic. There's no plausible scientific reason for the deletion. It therefore seems likely that the sequences were deleted to obscure their existence," the report states. During his research, Bloom recovered deleted files from Google Cloud, linked to the international database, and reconstructed partial sequences of 13 early epidemic viruses, according to the report, which doesn't further specify how he obtained the information. Bloom also states that the virus was circulated in Wuhan before it was detected at local wet markets, including the Wuhan seafood market, which is the focus of the WHO-led investigation into the origins of the virus. Exactly. It could have come from there. Could have come from the lab. Who knows? But if we aren't allowed to discuss this stuff, we're never going to get to the bottom of it. We're never going to find out what actually happened. And with all of the stuff that went on, listen, if it was 15 days to flatten the curve, and we're already, a year and change on from all of this stuff happening, I don't think that this would be such a highly politicized issue. But since we're here, we can only talk about things that are happening right now. We should figure out who's responsible for this, okay? If it leaked out of a lab, that's fine. Why did you cover everything up? You're going to have to figure out how you're going to make this right. If it came out of a wet market and you still covered it up, cool. Same rules apply. Responsibility, man. And that's what all that anyone's asking for at this point. But who knows? That might be a bridge too far for some people out there, but not for me and not for you guys as well. Now let's talk about Canada. Oh, Canada. It's been a minute since I've talked about this decrepit landscape that I once proudly declared as my home. Still like Alberta, but the tenuous grip on the people that are in charge of it right now are getting more and more depressing to talk about. So let's try to make it quick and as painless as possible, shall we? With that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. One should follow your gut and get after it. Catch you all later.